Is chronic fatigue caused by anemia? That's the question I get all the time from my patients, my clients, my colleagues. It would be so nice if chronic fatigue was actually caused by anemia, by iron deficiency. And we'd like to think that way. It's tempting to be able to find one solution, but in reality, it's complicated. And remember back in the day, the geritol commercials? This problem's been around for a long time. People with low energy, commercials that ask, do you have iron poor blood? Or the I Love Lucy show with Vitameatavegamin, right? Just drink this little thing and you're going to have your energy back. Are you run down and listless? Questions like that pop up all the time, and people have been tired for a long time. There's a lot of underlying causes. So, the good news is there are solutions. And on today's show, we're going to be discussing some of the myths and the truths about anemia and how you can help people to solve their energy crisis. I'm Dr. Ritamarie. Welcome back to the channel where we empower people to regain their energy, regain their health by identifying and then correcting the underlying root causes. We also train health practitioners to create thriving and fulfilling practices by getting great results for their clients. Today, we're going to start by looking at some of the myths that surround iron deficiency. So if you talk to your average conventional medical doctor and you ask them about iron deficiency, they'll say, yeah, iron deficiency, it's a major cause of low energy. We see it all the time. But is it the only cause? If you ask the average American, average conventional Western medical doctor, like, well, how do you determine if there's an iron deficiency? They generally will give you one of two answers. They'll say, oh, we look at the serum iron, and if it's low, we assume there's an iron deficiency. Some others who might think they're a little bit more advanced might say, well, I look at the serum ferritin, and since ferritin is the storage form of iron, you can detect that it's low even when the iron is not low yet. So we know that there's a low amount of the storage and people are heading towards an iron deficiency. Both of those approaches work, but they are not the only answers. There's lots of other markers for anemia, and we need to look at things in conjunction with each other. So for those of you who said, oh yeah, let's just run iron, serum iron, and see where it's at, you're partially correct. And the others that said we'll run serum ferritin because it's an early detector, yeah, that's correct too. But we need to look at serum iron and ferritin at the same time because guess what? They don't always track together. And that's one of the biggest myths I see around iron deficiency. Oh, you have low iron. Here's some iron supplements. But what if they have low iron and their ferritin is high? You might be thinking, well, how does that work? Iron and ferritin? How could they be in different places? Well, if the iron is high and the ferritin is low, or the iron is low and the ferritin is high, they indicate dysfunctions in that whole metabolism and storage of iron. It could be an inflammatory condition, it could be a problem with the liver, and there's some obscure things that I'm going to share with you in a moment that might be out of balance to create that. So just testing iron or just testing ferritin is not enough. Some people will say, well, okay, we also run the full anemia panel, which is the transferrin and the iron saturation. Great. Well, transferrin is a protein that carries the iron around. So if we have low transferrin, that usually means that, there's not much left to bind to the iron. And if we have high transferrin, it means that there's probably not enough iron to bind to the transferrin. So which is it? Well, we look at that number and it is important, but it usually does track pretty closely with the serum iron. So if you're running ferritin and transferrin, that'll give you a more complete picture. But if you're running iron and transferrin, it's pretty similar, right? So we want to really understand the underlying biochemistry. We want to understand the mechanisms. So I'll tell you a story about a patient I had once. She had high serum iron and she had low ferritin. So I said, huh? What's happening here? Her iron was out of the range, out of the ideal range, out of the normal range, because we look at ideal ranges, right, as functional medicine doctors. But why would that be? Well, that means there's a breakdown in the process where the iron gets taken and stored as ferritin. What is that breakdown? Well, I started looking at biochemical pathways because it was confounding to me. And I found that the process of converting the iron into the form that it needs to be in to be going into ferritin is actually melatonin dependent. It's controlled by a melatonin dependent enzyme. I thought, huh. So I asked her, I said, yeah, it seems like the melatonin might be low. And she said, how did you know that? I just got a test done last week and it said my melatonin was done and down and I'm having so much trouble sleeping. Bingo. I didn't find that in a textbook anywhere. I didn't find that in the handbook of medicine. I didn't find that in a protocol book. What I found it was by understanding the biochemical process by which the iron got stored away as ferritin and the conversions that had to happen to make that so. So it's really important, in my opinion, as functional health practitioners, that we understand the mechanisms by which things are happening. We don't just open up a book and say, for this problem, I do this. So if somebody has low iron, I automatically give them an iron supplement, right? If somebody has low ferritin, I automatically give them an iron supplement. But what if we've got that mixed bag where iron is low and ferritin is high? Well, oftentimes that is the opposite of what I just told you about. That's a situation where it's not being stored appropriately. And then we have to look at liver dysfunction, liver inflammation, and inflammation overall, right? So this is important. And if you go to the doctor, if you're somebody who is suffering from fatigue and you know, I'm so tired, and they check your blood and they only check one of these and they say, oh, you're iron deficient anemia. Here's your iron supplement. Question it. How's my MCV? How's my hemoglobin? Here's another mechanism that you need to know about. If iron is high and hemoglobin is low, that person is going to feel tired. Doesn't matter what the iron is, it matters how well the iron gets used to create hemoglobin, which is the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So you may say, well, why does that happen? Why, if we have plenty of iron, why would the hemoglobin be low? Again, another question for biochemical pathways. Let's look at the biochemical pathways and figure that one out. Well, it turns out that the process of turning the iron and moving it into hemoglobin, making hemoglobin from the 4 irons, is B6, vitamin B6 dependent. When was the last time you went to a conventional doctor who said, oh, you're tired, you may have anemia. Oh, your anemia might be caused by low vitamin B6. It's rare. In the functional medicine space, you'll see that more often. But that's why it's so important for you to understand the mechanisms, right? So we talk about iron deficiency. Those are some of the ways that it's mistreated. So you want to look at the MCV, mean corpuscular volume, in the CBC. If it's very small, then chances are good that it is an iron deficiency. If they're very large, chances are good that this person has a vitamin B12 or folate deficiency. If they're just normal, what does it mean? It doesn't necessarily mean they're perfectly normal. You gotta dig deeper, right? That perfectly normal might be because there's both an iron deficiency and a B12 or folate deficiency. And what happens then? They balance each other out. So the big ones, big red blood cells, small red blood cells even out. And so the MCV, which is basically the average size of those red blood cells, looks normal. So see, you've got to dig. When you're looking at helping somebody overcome fatigue, you can't just look at iron deficiency. You can't just stop at iron deficiency. And even if you've identified that there is an anemia related to low iron, low hemoglobin, you've got to dig deeper so you make the right recommendations. It's not just a matter of giving more iron. What if the iron is good, but you don't test it? You test the ferritin. What if you don't test either, but you see that the hemoglobin is low? You go, oh, hemoglobin's low. Well, you must need more iron. And this person takes iron, and then the iron levels keep going up. Remember that iron is oxidative stress on the body. We don't want to give iron unless it's absolutely needed, especially in a male or a non-menstruating female, because they're not having that loss of blood on a regular basis to bring the iron levels down. So you see, it's much more complicated than you're tired, here's iron. So some of the other myths, and we'll explore these in other videos, and you can see some links at the end of this, or some things you can click on, are, well, what else can be involved? Well, there's a lot that can be involved, right? What if they have plenty of iron, but they don't have enough oxygen? They don't have enough oxygen, and their mitochondria can't make enough energy. We need that to be in balance. What if their thyroid's not functioning properly? But it's not just a matter of testing TSH. Just giving somebody T4 is not going to solve their energy crisis, is not going to solve their thyroid problem. Just giving, let's say, iron and T4 is not enough. We need to look at nutrient imbalances. We need to look at the biochemical imbalances that are going on. We need to look at the way somebody's breathing to get enough oxygen into their cells. We need to look at circulation and so much more. So if you're struggling with low energy and you're just relying on conventional medicine to say, what's wrong with me? You're probably not getting very far. Not getting very far at all. So what I recommend is that you understand, as a functional practitioner, any kind of practitioner, health coach, doctor, nurse, functional practitioner, that you understand the full mechanism of energy metabolism. Energy metabolism, the bigger topic than we're going to talk about today, but we have a lot more videos planned in this series, and I've got this webinar that I'm doing. It's called the Fatigue Fixing Framework in Action, where we're going to look at all the possible causes and then what you can do to help someone to restore balance, to help yourself restore balance. Although the process is, the training is actually meant for health practitioners. But you don't have to be a health practitioner if you really like to understand the science of how your body works. Right? So these are things that you need to be looking at. And as health practitioners, we owe it to our clients. We owe it to them to dig deep. We owe it to them to not rely on the textbook to tell us what's going on. We absolutely need to take it to the next level. We need to look at the mechanisms. And I don't believe in protocols, because protocols don't work for everybody. There's no like one fatigue fixing formula. There's no fatigue fixing supplement or herb. It's a matter of what is that combination for each individual person. Somebody asks in the chat about copper. Yeah, copper can be super important, and it has to do with copper and zinc ratios as well. And there's kind of deficiency that's related to copper imbalance. So there's a lot of nutrients involved here. There's B vitamins, there's CoQ10, there's lipoic acid, there's a bunch of amino acids, there's copper, there's zinc, there's magnesium. And so what we need to do is leave no stone unturned in helping to identify for each individual what's going on with their low energy, and helping to put in together a comprehensive, personalized program. So join us for the fatigue fixing framework. I wanted to say formula, but it's really a fatigue fixing framework in action, and we'll go way deeper on all of that. I'll do a slide presentation and share. Check out the other videos. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the lives. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the new videos that we have coming up. We're a whole series on fatigue, because I think it's such a problem. It's such a big problem. We also have a live event coming up, and check the comments and I'll put links to all of these resources for you to go deeper with solving the energy crisis. Okay? We've done some on genetics. We've done some on lab testing. Go deeper. We owe it to our patients. We owe it to our clients. We owe it to our loved ones to really understand and not supply these pat answers that don't really work for everyone, and in most cases don't work for very many people. Hey, so let's move on. I'm Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo. I'm passionate about changing our healthcare system so people get the health they deserve, so they get the care they deserve, so they get the investigations that they deserve into the underlying causes. So geritol is not the answer necessarily. Vitameatavegamin from I Love Lucy is probably closer because it's like a combination of veggies and that could be kind of good, right? But there's no one size fits all solution. That's where the system is broken, and that's where we need to band together, you and I and everybody out there who's a health practitioner of any kind. We need to put it together and help to make the system change. Thank you.